Hey pilots, Drain Man here, and today I have got a very special video. That is right, in today's video we are going to build a full titanium FPV freestyle drone. This is the Zebroy Prometheus. This is a full-on titanium solid metal steel monster. I did do a review on this frame when it first came out and I first got my hands on it, and if you haven't seen that, I'll put a link for you. Go ahead and check that out. But there was a lot of controversy. I was actually really surprised. Me, I'm no metal doctor or scientific metal specialist, so I don't know. Metal to me seems a lot stronger than carbon fiber. Now, is it heavier? Most definitely. But we're talking about freestyle. Every little gram doesn't matter. But when we're talking about strength, how can metal possibly not be stronger than carbon? And I've had tons of comments on that video, and if you haven't read them, go read them, and they are going off. They are letting me know that titanium is nothing compared to carbon fiber. So why did I pay, well, I didn't, I got it sent to me, but why would you pay $170 for a frame that is made out of titanium if it's weaker than carbon fiber? I mean, it's titanium. It's almost like just a word you would use in your head. The first thing you think of is strength, right? Like, for example, my wedding ring. This is a titanium wedding ring. I've had it for years and years, and there's not even a scratch on it, and I'm a plumber. My hands are always getting beat up and torn up, and not once have I even scratched or banged or dented this titanium ring. So I don't know, maybe there's a different type of titanium and that's what this is, but I don't know. My thoughts right away are titanium is stronger. But guess what, pilots? In this video we are going to build this guy, and we are going to take it to the sky, and we're going to find out how strong is titanium and the Zebroy Prometheus frame. Let's go. Alrighty pilots, we are going to rock the DJI Air unit in this frame because it is HD friendly. We are most definitely going to run the Drain Man FPV 1750 KV in gunmetal Unibel style Flywoo motors, that's for sure. Then I'm definitely going to be putting FetTech. This is the FetTech flight controller with the KISS firmware, and we also got the 45 amp version ESC. So we've got a little bit more power, and we've got plenty of smooth flight. We've got some amazing propulsion, and we've got the best video on the market. This is going to be one sick puppy. Now let's unwrap our motors. Now let's unwrap our stack. Alright, there we go, looking good. I like to keep these little cases, they're great for holding screws. And let's go ahead and open up our frame. Alright, and we're going to need a 2.0, and we'll go ahead and pull off this top plate. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and mount my Drain Man motors. So like I tell you guys in any build video you ever watched, unless you're new to the channel, put Loctite on your motors. Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your quad. If you have not seen my video, I have a video on what happens if you don't use Loctite. I'll link that for you. Always shake your Loctite, and then to make my life easy, I just pour some in a corner, and then I dip as needed. And as you're going to notice here, they've supplied us with a nut and bolt. Now I'm not really sure why they did that, maybe just for shipping purposes, but this nut right here is completely useless because we're going to take it off, and then we're going to put our motor through there. And that's what will hold this bracket on. You're not going to have a nut holding the bracket on, just for the simple fact that there's going to be a motor there. So what I'll do is I'll run 3 screws of one size and then 1 screw of another size. Oh my goodness, this is wicked. This is way different than a normal carbon fiber frame. So what we'll do is we'll drop one in just to hold it, and then we'll figure out the details after. Alright, now jumping across with our bracket, I'll use a longer one. Still, same Loctite. Now we'll go through our carbon. Nice and tight. And then we'll grab our next screw and we'll dip her again. And we'll go into that final screw hole. Nice and tight. And then super tight. Alright, so there you go. That is one motor on and mounted from the bottom. That's what it looks like. Right now our wires are hanging here. We're going to have to do some type of jump over to the side and then run along the arm or whatnot. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out when we get there. But definitely look at that. As long as that doesn't hit and bend, that provides tons of support against your motor because you're going to hit this metal before you hit your motor. And also the same is true on this side. Look at that. In the event of a hard crash against like a boom, see? You're going to hit here before you hit your motor. So that's pretty nice. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put on the rest of these motors and I'll meet you back here. And look at that guy there. Holy cow, that is really starting to come together. So let's go ahead and get our ESC mounted. Now, we are going to be mounting 30 by 30 because I am running the 45 amp FETTech ESC, and as you can see, it's 30 by 30 mounting. Now it is tough to work in here because you've got these sidewalls in the way. Alright, so I should be able to take my driver and I can spin this down. Just like so. Oh yeah. That feels good. Okay. And then if we put this guy on top. Okay. Let's see what we got. We'll just put one on for testing. Yep, it's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and put these other three in and I'll meet you back here. Alright, so now I've got all four in, ready to go. There's a washer and a nut and hopefully just enough of the shaft is left to hold the ESC but yet make it nice and snug. So this is going to be a balance here we have to pull off, and let's see what we got. Alright, so that looks perfect. So before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen this back up. I know, what's he doing? He just went through all that work and he's taking it back off. So we'll punch these in. And then the DJI Air unit comes with this connector right here. And this is an amazing connector. The problem is this wire right here is not silicone. I bought this pack. It's I'll put a link to it down in the video description, but this is silicone wire designed for the DJI Air unit, and it's made by Flywoo, and it's like $5 and you get a pack of 5, so they're like $1. You can't beat it. For me, absolutely worth every penny. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll punch this in. Boom. And now that's done and out of my way. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and peel this back off. And I'm going to go ahead and stick this right now. So while I'm building, while I'm troubleshooting, I can make sure that I build it at the correct height. So these wires will most likely come across the top like this or whatever. And then this guy will stick right up against there. You got that right. That is protecting that, and it's also keeping those from coming out. So I'm going to start with the very first capacitor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put positive where positive goes and negative where negative goes. I'm going to go super tight, and I'll bend forward just like that. Make sure you're being very, very careful, and let's put the next one in. So negative to negative, positive to positive. I'm going to bring it as close as humanly possible, and then bend that guy down, bend those up forward, and there you go. Now after those are soldered on, you want to cut this extra off and be careful not to hit nothing you're not supposed to. Alrighty, look at that. Whoop. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to move to the back. What a beaut. Alright, now let's go ahead and get our XT60 in there. Alright, so there we go. We've got our XT60 soldered up and ready to go. All I got to do is take the little cap and push it through the bottom. And that's one of my favoriteest things about this type of XT60. I prefer it greatly over the other types. Look at that. Now watch. Pop that on. And she's done and gorgeous. I'll grab one side. I'll put it up here. And I'll solder it on. So there you go. Positive, negative, soldered on, ready to roll. Alright, so now it's time to go ahead and put on our motor wires. By no means is this going to be easy, because look at the arrangement we have here. We have these two pads being blocked by this metal, and then up here the same thing. So this is definitely going to be a challenge trying to get these wires through here and soldered on nicely. Now before we get too far ahead, I'm going to go ahead and connect my 4-in-1, which I do have good access to it right there. If we shot straight across, I mean, that would just be no good. Let's entertain the idea of passing through here. Now with everything being metal on the frame, we need to be careful that nothing is touching something it's not supposed to. Look at that. I know, that is gorgeous. So I went ahead and matched the titanium theme, and I used a little bit of gray wire cover. And not only does it make it look cool, it's also going to protect my wire and keep it out of the props, because our props are going to be spinning right here. And I can't risk them coming around this way and then popping up and getting hit. So we normally put some type of propeller or ESC cover or something over the motor wires to keep them from getting hit. But what better than a titanium arm than to block the motor wires? So I went ahead and did one kind of just to feel it out, see how it would go. And now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and show you how I did one. And then after that, we'll do the rest and wrap this thing up. Little bit of heat shrink. I'll measure off of this one. So through there, and just take some scissors and cut it. It's kind of like one of those French finger, Chinese finger jails things, where when you pull it gets tighter, when you push it opens up. See? Now you have to be careful because it'll start unbraiding on you. And then we'll send this down and around, and we'll just get a measure real quick. Need a little bit of heat shrink, and what I'll do is I'll cut it right down the middle. Through my hole and up and over. So what I'm going to do now is I'll cut and solder up my wires. Now I went with heat shrink that doesn't close all the way. You can if you want, but I want to be able to move the wires around inside of here, so that way if there's any flex or stretch or pull or crash or whatever, everything's not so tight that it's going to explode on impact. And then we solder it. Alright, there you go. we put on the next one. So what I'll do now is I'll do the 2 fronts, and then I'll meet you back here. All right, looky here. That has really come together really, really nice. I'm really glad I did that and I didn't just run a bunch of loose wires all over the place with a bunch of zip ties. This is absolutely perfect. Plus, it gives the protection we need and it matches. You can't beat it. All right, so the next thing we need to do is go ahead and put on our flight controller. So I have that right here, and the first thing we need to do in putting that on is hook up our connector, which goes right here. And then I've got my soft mount. Look at that. I've wired up like a million of these, so I know exactly where to put all the wires. If you're unsure where to wire yours, I have a full video going over everything you need to know about FETTech. You can go ahead and check that video out. I will link it down in the video description. Now my signal goes right here. And my signal ground The next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and get our UART done. So we need to be able to communicate, which is transmit and receive, to and from this board. Alright, so because these runs are further, I left a little bit of slack so that way if there's any type of push or pull, it doesn't explode. We'll go ground to ground and voltage to voltage. Next thing we need to do is go ahead and mount our camera. That should be fairly easy. Just make sure the up arrow is facing up. And now we're ready for our smoke stopper test. Alright, here goes nothing. I need to just jump into the configurator, do a little bit of setting up, make sure all my motors are spinning in the right direction, put on my rates, bind my radio, bind my goggles, and then we'll go ahead and put our top plate on and we'll take her to the sky. Alright, so I'm just putting on my new firmware onto my DJI Air unit. That way I have the latest and the greatest. Alright, there we are, set up, done, and ready to go. I'm going to slap on my top plate real quick, and then we are off to the sky. And that guy's going to go right there, and I'm going to go ahead and lock these against here, and I'll see you guys in the field.
camera.
Tell the camera. Tell the camera.
You didn't hit that dive over
He
there.
says I didn't hit that dive.
No way.
You guys are still trying to grab a hold of your seat because of what just happened.